All right, and welcome to Unofficially, the podcast, Wisconsin Badgers. I'm Evan. I'm here with Matt. Today we're going to catch up on the recruiting news as well as some other items that we are past due with.
Hi.
So Matt, let's talk first. Jim Leonhard has obviously is leaving Wisconsin since we've last had a show. What are your initial thoughts on the departures of Jim?
We don't need to belabor it because every Wisconsin pundit or casual fan has talked about it. Wish him well. He's the epitome of a Badger. His rumored move to Illinois doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me, given that I don't think he's going to be simpatico with Bielema. I'm not sure Bielema has anything to give him. I think Bielema is a rotund, corpulent nothing. I think Leonhard is an up-and-coming stud who would probably, have an immediate impact on any team that he could go to. So why he would try to downgrade to something like in Illinois, I don't know. Other than that, really wish him well, and I wish Bielema not well. So he's going to take some friendly fire here a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be extremely strange if he does go to Illinois with Bielema and Leonhard on the opposing sideline, and us with two Ohio State guys at least, Luke Fickell and Jim Tressel's nephew, Mike Tressel. So they'll certainly be weird, but like I said, I wish the best for Leonhard. Like you said, don't need to get into much, but obviously Leonhard represents the best of this program, and we wish him the best. So on to additions at Wisconsin. UNC's offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, is coming to Wisconsin. So massive news. I mean, he's going to bring UNC's offense, which is going to be an air raid offense. Or I should say, Phil Longo's offense is an air raid offense. And this is completely different than what we've seen at Wisconsin. I mean, Matt, what are your thoughts on Phil and going the air raid?
Yeah, and again, not to chew on old news because I know it's been out there for a while, but I love it. I think there's a modicum of apprehension, and I'll get to that. I think my initial concern over the last year or so was you kind of see the writing on the wall, all of these massive changes in NCAA football, where it's moving more towards a business, more towards the NFL in terms of what you're seeing with name, image, likeness, what you're seeing with the changes of the transfer portal, the consolidation of the conferences. My concern is that Wisconsin, being a traditional university, was going to kind of get caught up in the dust, and we were going to continue to see some of the degradation that we've seen over the last couple of years. But I think, old Mac there in the AD's office has taken it upon himself to make sure that we're going to, be more on the avant-garde. We're going to take some chances, even if that means sacrificing some of, what Wisconsin's identity is. My entire
Let's talk about that for a second, right? Because I completely agree. I've heard that a lot, like Wisconsin's identity. The biggest concern with hiring Phil seems to be Wisconsin's identity. I mean, why do you think that's so important? Is it so important that we have this identity? I mean, what is Wisconsin's identity right now? I mean, get 3 yards and go 3 and out and score 17 points a game, if that.
That's not the identity. That's the situation that we're in right now, is that we've been kind of playing that ball. I think I've not been a Wisconsin fan my entire life, right? I moved around, and it wasn't until, probably the Ron Dane, if not after period, where I really started to take notice of Wisconsin. It's because I was a high school student in Minnesota and ended up going there. But the entire time that I've been a Wisconsin fan, it's been this stout offensive line, strong running game, beat it down their throats, kind of quintessential Big Ten, old school smash mouth football. And, we took pride in that. We continue to take pride in that. I think what's happened, though, is you still need to innovate even within that philosophy, and we've just not done it. So you've seen the significant degradation in the program, and I think that was made worse with the huge lack of charisma and identity that I think Chris lent the program, right? He didn't really infuse it with any sort of energy. So
Right. It's certainly a different energy. Yes. Yeah. He's obviously a laid back guy. We've talked about this on the podcast before.
Right. We were just playing a caricature of ourselves, and we weren't trying to innovate, and we were just trying to play the football of 10 years ago without many adaptations to it. And I think the game has passed that by. So I think
agree.
What I'll be interested to see with Longo is, can we take that up-tempo air raid offense, shift a little bit to an RPO, right? If we have Evers.
Right. And I think, and we're talking about Evers in a second, but I think that's a plan, man. I mean, Phil does have some RPO aspects in his offense. And I mean, as we say,
but can we blend it, right? So that's concern is are we completely, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or can we maintain that kernel of our identity, which has been, it's been the only thing that we've had going for us from a recruitment standpoint for a couple of decades, which is we're going to get good running backs and we're going to get big beefy linemen. So can we maintain that identity, but also blend that with dynamic wide receivers, fast-paced, up-tempo air raid offense, dual threat quarterbacks? I mean, if we can do both, if we can walk and chew gum there and be the Wisconsin of old, and then this new Luke Fickell Longo, kind of philosophy, I think we might never lose a game again.
Right. No, I would agree. And I think it is possible to blend these. I mean, you look at Braylon Allen, I think he's going to have a much better year in an air raid offense when there's not 8 guys in the box than he had this last year when they just stacked the box. Everyone knows what's a run coming. I mean, when you have an entire secondary, right, that has to watch out for the deep ball every single play, right? I mean,
with Evers, it's not just like the deep ball and the fact that, and we'll get to Kekahuna and the wide receiver talent that we recruited, but it's not just that we're going to move to this air raid. It's that Evers is going to be a threat on the ground.
And let's talk about that. I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, I assume that everyone listening to this, if you're a hardcore enough of a Badger fan, I'm sure that you're well aware that Nick Evers, the Oklahoma transfer, has committed to Wisconsin. He is a dual threat quarterback. I believe he was the number 4 dual threat quarterback coming out of his recruiting class. So number 4 in the country.
Stupid, whether it's Rivals or 247 or any of those, they all have. He was in the top 10.
I believe it was number 4 dual threat quarterback. But so I mean, incredibly exciting. And like you said, not only do we have an air raid offense, but we have an air raid offense with the dual threat quarterback, right? And Evers is going to be a threat every single play, right, with his feet.
So just think what that does to the box, right? It opens it up completely for Braylon Allen, and it gives our playbook triples in size.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean,
fantastic.
Yeah, and one other thing, speaking of which, Paul Chryst, as bizarre as it seems like the offense was so simple, apparently had a very complicated offense that was difficult for players and quarterbacks to learn. And it's sort of almost similar, like the pro style offense, sort of similar to the criticism South Carolina received this year about pro style being super complicated. Apparently Phil Longo's offense is incredibly simple. It's incredibly quarterback friendly. And there's rumors that
what does his offense do? It just goes through one round of progressions and then just runs.
Well, right. And there's rumors that Phil actually has a play called Get Open, where simply the entire play is just receivers find a thing. But I mean, Phil's exactly.
Just go get open.
Right, exactly. And Phil's entire, which I love, Phil's entire offensive philosophy is go for the jugular, right? Any play, if there is a shot open downfield, he's going to take it, right? I was reading an article, just like a 4th and 1, right? He'll bomb it down the field on a 4th and 1 if the defense, right, isn't set up in a sort of prevent style or in a coverage that if there's any vulnerability for deep pass, I mean, they're going for it. So, I mean, score points, outscore the opponent, move the ball. I mean, that is his entire philosophy, which I absolutely love. And like I said, it seems like a breath of fresh air for this program.
Yeah, I hope so. But anyways, we I don't want to again beat a horse that's already.
Yeah. So Nick Evers though, that is fresh. That is some fresher news. What was your reaction when you first heard the news that Evers was coming?
I mean, I was never on the Mertz train. I think I was excited to have, whatever he was from in terms of a traditional pocket quarterback. He was ranked really highly. He was a 4-star. But I never had any illusions. I think because I still was wearing that heavy wet blanket of like, it's Wisconsin. We're not going to have a good quarterback. Russell Wilson was a flash in the pan. At best, we can always only hope for a Scott Tolzien kind of character. He's going to get the job. He's not going to put you in a position where you're going to lose. With Evers, I'm friggin' psyched, bro.
Yeah, I am just pumped. When I first heard the news, I did not see this coming whatsoever. So when I heard the news, just completely psyched. I mean, not only is the kid have an awesome arm, but just the fact that he's a real dual threat. I mean, he's not like a quarterback. Oh, he's a mobile quarterback that can pick up a first down now and again with his feet. This guy can take it 60 yards to the house and outrun the linebacker. You know what I mean? Like outrun everyone in the field other than some of the safeties and cornerbacks, right? So,
right. So my initial, me, like there's that portion of me that's like, we're never going to lose a game again. This is the best thing that's ever happened. Luke Fickell is daddy. He's the man. But then it's also like, is Nick Evers just another Mertz in terms of, he's highly touted. He has one pass.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He has no experience, right? He's a giant question mark. He's obviously a risk.
But I've seen some of the tape, and again, who the fuck am I? Right? Doesn't matter. Tape. I'm not a pundit. I don't know what I'm talking about. But he looked. I mean, he passed my eyes.
I saw exactly. I saw the tape here. We can actually. Let me just can actually bring up the tape in case anyone hasn't seen it. Let's see if we can.
Please edit out this dead air.
Oh no, it's live, man. There's no editing out. So sorry, folks. You'll have to see it. But
when one of us comes up short.
Oh, sick! Yeah, an advert.
Yeah.
In team.
Well. Anyways, we can just let this go in the background. Can you hear it, Matt? Can you hear the?
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. You also have us on the background. But yeah, so we can sort of like break this down. Obviously, incredible arm, right? I mean, incredible arm, and then, stuff like this, right? This is a 60-yard run, outrunning everyone in the field, right? He's got. The guys can't even take an angle on that, right? So,
take high school tape for what it is. You're playing against like me out there,
right?
And the pass rush is like, you're getting in a pillow fight sometimes.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But
there's obviously a difference. You're right. There's obviously a difference between.
But I love what I see. Again, that there's accuracy there. That receiver sacrificed his body. I appreciate it. But I'm psyched for Nick Evers. I'm psyched for what he's going to do with Longo. I think it's going to be really interesting. Because today's National Signing Day, and we're going to get into that. We have LaCrue now too.
Yep.
To kind of see how LaCrue and Evers, they're only at 2 years apart.
Yep.
How they're a year apart. How they're gonna.
Right. How that's going to work.
Yeah.
And of course, and Miles Burkett.
I think iron sharpens iron, as trite of a phrase as that is.
Right.
Have two really solid quarterbacks and different quarterbacks. LaCrue is not of the stock. It's interesting. I'm not suggesting we platoon them. I think Evers is a substantially better quarterback than LaCrue, at least based on just our high school stuff. But, I think it's going to be great to have two new, fresh and kind of different QBs in the locker room here.
Right. I completely agree. So, and I just want to mention, of course, Miles Burkett, right? We have no idea what he's going to bring. He's going to compete. He's going to compete as well. I don't know. I wouldn't brush him off. From what I've heard, it sounds like he's has some real potential. So, he has.
The reason I brushed him off is because and I shouldn't have done this. I was always on the chase. I was part of the wolf pack. Right? I'm still part of the wolf pack.
He almost had his moment. He almost had his moment.
Well, you know what? I have a feeling he's going to become a really integral employee at Enterprise Rent-A-Car coming up. I'll root for him in that pursuit as well.
Yeah. Yes. Well, best of luck, Chase, and also, of course, let's just bring up Mertz. I just feel like we need to, since we talked to him so much in the podcast, we at least need to say a final word to Mertz. Graham Mertz, we're going to Florida. Graham, really wish things could have worked out for you at Wisconsin, but obviously wish you the best of luck at Florida. And yeah, that's all I got. So, Matt, I don't know if you have anything to say to Mertz or.
Nope.
All right. Let's move on to signing day. So let's start with the DBs. This class has 6 defensive backs. 2 that stood out to me were Braden Moore and Amari Snowden. Both recent recruits that Fickle or that have committed since Fickle's been here. Thing that stood out to me is Braden Moore 6'2", Amari Snowden 6'3". Okay, 6'3" is the tallest defensive back we currently have on the team, and we currently only have one defensive back right now, Hunter Wohler, who's 6'2". So
the sickest secondary, dude.
Right, exactly. So, like I said, and I think part of it is, I mean, like I said, they're the biggest part of our class. We have 6 of them in this class alone. 6 defensive backs in this class. I mean, it's huge. Obviously, I think part of this has to do with us going to a 3-3-5, where we're gonna have 5. Right, we're in a 5 in the secondary as opposed to what we had in the 3-4. Or I'm sorry, I guess in the, I mean, so we have one more. We have one more in the secondary than we've had under Leonard.
Look, I'll get into the specifics, but just first and foremost, Fickle's been here 20 days.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and,
that. Yeah,
that can be incredible. Like, I think the whole. The period where coaches kind of move around and National Signing Day and bowl season, it just doesn't work really well, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense with all the overlap and shit. You're not giving really anybody any time. You're not getting players the opportunity to meet new coaches if they've already committed to a program. You're not giving coaches who've already affected well with players, give them the opportunity to like, hey, I'm moving to this new program, but here's what I'm bringing over. Come with me. I just don't think there's a lot of time. And yes, I know it's just early signing day, so there's plenty of time. But what is it? 80% of kids commit today.
Right.
I think the whole system's a little wonky, but he's had 20 days and he's already given me what I think is one of our more phenomenal recruiting classes. And yes,
I mean, certainly what he's done in the last 2 weeks. I mean, we've had 2 4-stars. I mean, both of these guys are 4 stars.
Nick Evers.
Yeah, exactly. Nick Evers is a 4-star, and he's not even like.
Yeah,
and part of it, I mean, on Rivals, right? They don't even include right in the 2023 class. They obviously don't include him, and we'd obviously be rated higher if they included Evers. But
so he's done a phenomenal job in such a short period of time, and again, I think it goes to show that he as a personality has a draw, right? Because Snowden. He was committed to Cincy, or he was
yes. Amari Snowden was committed to Cincy. I just a little background to him. He was actually a 2-sport athlete. He was actually going to play baseball at Cincy as well. Yeah.
So that's how. So again, like he was recruited to Cincy, and I know Fickle was a big part of that as a 2-sport athlete for baseball and football, and he's coming to a program that doesn't even have baseball.
Right.
And it just goes to show how engaging and dynamic and how much gravitas Fickle has to bring this guy over and say, hey, I know you were going to probably try out your first couple of years at Cincy to figure out really which sport is yours. You're great at both. But followed him to Wisconsin for him, and he kind of gave up on the baseball thing. It's awesome. It speaks a lot for what Fickle's bringing to the table here.
Yeah, completely agree. So, will Wisconsin secondary be able to hang with Ohio State now? What do you think? A couple of years? Because obviously Ohio State's wide receivers. I mean, look at this year. Obviously, our secondary got absolutely slashed by Ohio State. And I think Ohio State is obviously going to have talented wide receivers for the foreseeable future. I mean, how many more? Do we need a couple more classes to sort of get there, or what?
You know what? I think Michigan kind of put a hole into the Ohio State boat here. I think they're a paper tiger. They're a glass dragon.
Yeah.
I think we struggled with them, but I think, do we play Ohio State next year?
Yeah, in Madison, Halloween in Madison. So
we're gonna win that game. We're gonna win that game.
We may be the unofficial podcast may be having a live show from Madison the day of the game. We'll have to wait and see.
Count me in. But let me just say that I think we win that game because I think what's his face, Ryan Day is a bum. He's a loser. He's being lambasted all over social media today for his lack of charisma. He's got the charisma of an ant. I think his program is going to be reflective of that. I think, multiple years of Michigan beating Ohio State, right? It's the program's dying. It's dead. The program's dead. Ohio State's dead.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold statement. I don't know if I would go quite that far, but I do think Wisconsin will beat Ohio State in Madison next year. We play Ohio State so well in Madison, right?
It's dead.
Yeah, Ohio State, they do. They struggle in Madison. The last two times they've been to Madison, I think they've gone to overtime. So after the game this year, I thought it could be a generation before we beat Ohio State again. But yeah, with Fickle and the guys we're bringing in, and especially the offense we're bringing in, we can absolutely 100% beat Ohio State in October. We're
not going to not only beat Ohio State, we're not going to lose a game the entire season.
I mean, we have an extremely favorable schedule. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Wisconsin. I know some guys. I hear some pundits talking about like, oh, we'll be happy with 8 wins. What are you talking? 8 wins? Get out of here. This team's winning. I think this team.
Think.
Yeah. Seriously, 8 games. Luke Fickle. It's not like this team also didn't have talent, right? It's not like we had a bunch of bums on this team. We do have talent at Wisconsin. We just have to, we have like Braylon Allen, right? He's a talented running back, right? We have talented players on this team. Just need a new scheme, which it sounds like we're getting. So, we can move on to another big Fickle commit was Tucker Ashcraft, tight end. Apparently is known for being an excellent blocker, but also
isn't he like
pretty a pass catcher?
He's 6'5", right?
Yeah. So he's a big guy. And it sounds like he's also just have one more threat as a pass catcher, as sort of right as a using a tight end as a receiver. He's going to fit in Phil Longo's offense well, and it's just one more threat downfield. So
again, though, if he uses all of his whatever 235 pounds, 6'5" frame to block, given the offense that we're building and given the fact that Kahuna and I don't even care if he's just an excellent blocking tight end. That's phenomenal. That's what we need.
Right.
I
agree.
It's an alternative in short yardage opportunities or something like that, but I love it.
Yeah, completely agree. Also, another notable recruit that Fickle just signed. One of Fickle's guys, Christian Allegro, was going to play lacrosse for Navy originally, but now going to play outside linebacker for the Badgers. And he is lightning fast. Runs a 4.57 40. So for a linebacker, 4.57 for a linebacker, it's pretty quick. So you should be able to chase down some guys and get to the ball.
Yeah, I don't know about him
quickly.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about him other than I saw today during the recruiting thing, he wanted to be with his coach in high school when he signed the papers and everything like that. I think he's a good kid. I think he's going to really, really connect with Fickle and the Badgers staff. So, yeah, I think I was concerned that losing Jimmy would result in an inferior defense.
Yeah.
I think what the product we're placing on the field, with I don't think Tressel is a Jim Leonard, but I
Right.
think he's still excellent, and I think the combination of who we're signing and who Tressel is going to be really, really, really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I have no idea what to expect at Tressel. Like the 3-3-5 defense, it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes in the Big Ten. I can't imagine. I mean, it's hard to say because Leonard had such good defenses. It's like it's hard to like imagine a defense that's better than some of I mean, like last year.
Last year,
last year, yeah. I mean, last year was insane.
The last 2 years. I mean,
right.
Not this last season, but the two
exactly.
seasons there were so
exactly
fucking good.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I don't know how much different it looks. I have a little more faith in our.
The drop off this season had nothing to do with Leonard. I think it just had to do with the fact that we didn't have a recruiting engine out there.
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly part of it. I
mean, who did we have this season? Our secondary talent.
That's it. I mean, right, and yeah, you're right. I mean, it's some injuries too.
I mean, Torchio was out there, like, and he's great.
Right.
Everything, but he's not like a huge athlete who should be making these amazing plays and everything. Like,
right. Yeah, so I do think the secondary there was obviously room. Certainly this year, it was reflected. The secondary, obviously, there's room for improvement. Right, you look at that Ohio State game, or even looking against like the Minnesota game. There's room for improvement in the secondary, and I think.
Can we talk? Sorry, you brought up a word that
Minnesota. We have that later. That word. Yeah, we have that. We'll talk about that
PJ
a little later.
PJ
yeah, we have that on we've got that. We got that on the schedule.
I'm his nemesis.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Christian Allegro, Tucker. We talked about Braden Moore, Amari Snowden. One other guy I wanted to talk about, Nate White, #1 player in Wisconsin, running back from Milwaukee. What do you think about this guy? He maybe a few years before he sees the field with now with when you got Braylon Allen ahead of you, and so it could be a while. I don't know if he's going to be competing for when he's going to actually be on the field, but
he's got that like James White kind of thing going, and not name only, but like that quick kind of receiver RB hybrid that White always was, and shifty.
Yep.
Can run on the edges, and he's not going to barrel through and try to find these gaps like a JT would, but he's very much like I think a James White is.
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly excited. I think he's a really solid complement to a thoroughbred like Braylon Allen is. I think the two of them are going to be a really dynamic duo in the backfield.
Yeah, and I'm actually just going to bring up some of here are Nate White's senior highlights. So, like I said, #1 player in Wisconsin. He committed it last May, and has stuck with them regardless of the coaching changes. But obviously, I mean, it's obviously just barrel right people. I mean, like I said, it's hard to judge high school football, right?
But again, because I think in high school football it's different, right? Because you see that he's running right up the center gap there. I don't think that's how he would be used because he's a smaller guy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think it's 5'10". Yeah. Right. So he's not.
He's more of that James White who's we're gonna teach him how to run on the edge and take the outside route, and I mean, how's his receiving? I haven't seen much about his receiving, and I would also be curious to know how fast is he, because I'm curious if he's faster than Braylon. He's obviously not as big as Braylon. I've seen some tape, and he looks really shifty and nimble,
right?
Like quick and agile. So I mean, I would anticipate he's pretty friggin' fast.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying as far as like the James White comparison. I can definitely see a little bit of a James White style of running.
I don't think he's like a certain down back in substitution for Braylon or anything. I think the two of them line up in the backfield together, and it spreads our offense a lot.
Right.
The opportunity to have multiple options,
Right.
And opens up some playmaking for Nick Evers, which is
right. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I wonder if I have no idea if Phil will plan to have two running backs in the backfield, because that would be crazy if we did. I mean, because even just him and Evers, right? Those are two. You have two running threats in the backfield on every single play, right?
Imagine what that does for like the long ball.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So, I mean, you have to. I'm so interested to see, right? I feel like we're going to see one of these Wisconsin offenses that are just scoring more than 40 points a game, and just when we play like non-conference opponents, we're going to see those 50, 60-point games, and we're just going to absolutely light it up. I'm hoping that's true. One thing I did want to air raid that I meant to ask you earlier: are you at all concerned about the weather in Madison? No,
because I think what's going to happen is, the weather in Madison, especially now, because I'm a bleeding heart liberal and I really believe in climate change. We're seeing less and less of a weather impact in terms of like wet, snowy conditions earlier in the season.
Right.
So it doesn't really become an issue until like at least November. I mean,
right. And I would agree. And like, I think about this November, obviously there's going to be some cold games where, like I said, aren't great.
Cold. I don't think it's the cold that's really going to impact it. It would be more if there was some precipitation or something like that.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see that. And even if we do, I think we have, and I hope we'll continue to develop running threats to new that, because if it's affecting us,
exactly. And like I said, and maybe that's great. And like I said, that's another thing with Evers. We have that running threat in addition to a running back. So
exactly right. So it's I'm not super concerned. I don't know. I mean, like I said before, my concern is more like, man, I would spend a lot of time trying to convince people who, like my family and shit, who had no connection to Big Ten football or anything like that, and they'd watch games, and I'd be like, "This is Wisconsin football."
And they're like, "Is anything else on TV?"
We're gonna run it for 3.5 yards, and we're probably on it, but so is the other team, and that's just what. And then I've spent so much time like defending, like, I love this Big Ten smash mouth football. It's just, we're gonna hammer you hard, we're gonna run it down your throats, we're gonna have this big beefy offensive line, and we're gonna score. And the final score of the game is gonna be 13-16.
Right.
And now we're moving to this thing that's like totally antithetical to that. It makes me feel weird, but I'm also super excited because I think we have the right personnel to actually make it effective. Like 6 months ago, if you had said, "Hey, look, this Wisconsin season is going to be a terrible dud, and we're going to come like totally like guillotine off the head of your coaching staff and everything like that, and you're going to move to an air raid offense."
Right. Oh yeah.
Are you fucking joking me?
Yeah.
We're going to be the worst team in the Big Ten. We're going to.
I never, ever thought we would see air raid offense. I mean, going to back,
it somehow works with the personnel we have.
Right. And it's so bizarre, because going back to earlier this year, if you had just told me, "Oh yeah, Paul Chryst is going to get fired, Jim Leonard's leaving, you're bringing in Luke Fickell and Phil Longo in air raid offense," I mean, it's just so. I mean, it's what a lot of sort of Badger fans have sort of been fantasized about, and sort of like talked about in a hypothetical nature, but never did I think it would actually happen.
Right.
So, let's just move on to sort of other recruits. Our highest recruit is actually our offensive guard, James Durand. He was actually our highest recruit on the team. I think he's a number 4 offensive guard in the country. So, obviously it's good.
We haven't talked about Kei Kahuna.
Oh, that's true. Yep. You're right. Yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about him.
I mean, what else can you say? Luke Fickell, the Fickell effect.
Right. Yeah. So this was this is the wide receiver that I think he actually had originally committed to Wisconsin. Then he was going to go to Arizona, and now has surprised everyone and committed to Wisconsin. Now I didn't hear anything about this kid beforehand, but obviously thrilled to get another wide receiver in the mix.
I'm so someone with that level of talent. I mean, we're recruiting at kind of all points of the compass, and I dig that. And I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. When was the last time we had a highly touted wide receiver, a highly touted QB, highly touted defense?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the only thing I can really compare it to, it does feel like the Russell Wilson season, like the season before we got Russell Wilson.
That's the point. Again, we underperformed in that season. But I can point to the reasons, and it wasn't play calling, it wasn't coaching, or it was fluke shit.
Exactly, it was bad luck. It was a Hail Mary to Michigan State, followed by a Hail Mary at Ohio State. Right?
It was fluke shit that kept us from, eternal glory, and it sucks. And it's like the Final Four run and the national championship.
And sort of somewhat ironic that Russell Wilson year, that Hail Mary against Ohio State, that was actually that was Fickell's interim year at Ohio State. That was the year that Fickell was actually coaching Ohio State. So they said still so weird. It's going to take a while for it not to be weird to think about Luke Fickell as a Badger. Like I said, so thrilled he's here, but it's just weird. It's just weird. One thing that did stand out to me about our class, not a single defensive lineman in the class. Luke Fickell in his press conference earlier today said that there's something he was a little bit concerned about. He said we'd get a little bit more sleep at night if we had D linemen. I don't know. It's not great. Maybe we can see if we can pick one up in the transfer portal. I mean, hopefully this isn't
the end of the signing period, right? I mean,
right.
I still think Wisconsin has been a very effective development program where we can develop players who might have been underappreciated in high school. So I think the onus is on Tressel to recruit maybe a 2-star defensive lineman. And
we could even get. I mean, I think a 3-star or said. The portal, I mean, it's still
it's going to go for a while.
Right. So
signing that portal, everything's going to go for a while. I'm not super concerned with, I'd like to see someone, but I think we had a good enough day today where
yeah, I would agree.
Give us a year and then they're going to come because we're.
You look at this class compared to where it was 2 weeks ago, right? There's one point with 8 commits, and
imagine if we had done nothing.
I know.
No, so seriously,
and I think go ahead, but I think Mac basically foresaw this, and you're exactly right. But yeah, go ahead.
But imagine if we had signed Leonard. Mertz would have stayed. Everyone would have stayed. It would have been fucking business as usual.
Right. I know. That's the thing that's so strange to me. If we had kept Leonard, what would this team and class or the coaching staff, what would they have looked like? And I think that is so.
My statement is at 1,000% right now. And if we had just kept Leonard and kind of gone on with the status quo, I would just be like, it would just be another year. But going in the next football season, dude, I'm telling you right now, August is going to be the longest month of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Well, August we'll be sure to bring guys plenty of shows. We'll do a whole position preview. I think August, get everyone pumped up for what should be one of the most exciting Wisconsin seasons in recent memory. But I mean, I just completely agree. 1,000% excited. They said there's just not enough superlatives in the world to sort of express how excited I am. All of this conversation over the last couple of years about Wisconsin, winning a national championship, and just it never really seemed like anyone gave them a chance, and it just seemed like something that's wasn't realistic. Wisconsin isn't in the big leagues. They're not a blue blood program. They're not capable of winning a national championship. With Luke Fickell as coach, Wisconsin is absolutely capable of winning a national championship.
Well, that's my thing. And that's why, look, even if this experiment fails, I am so proud of Wisconsin for actually going out and doing all this shit and spending money, taking risks. It's so not Wisconsin and so
Right.
not, like usually you and I, we resign ourselves to this like, okay, Wisconsin's just going to fucking do what Wisconsin does, which is the status quo, ultra conservative bullshit. Even if this fails, I will not hold it against. I think I love, and you know what? It makes me feel like shit about Alvarez. Like, why wasn't Barry Alvarez doing any of this shit? And like, I
don't know.
He's a Wisconsin hero. He's a
At the same time, I mean, Paul, obviously, I mean, look at the 2017 season, right? We were knocking on the door of at least a college football playoff a few times. So I don't want to. I see exactly what you're saying. Why? It seems like why didn't we do this stuff earlier? I completely agree. Yeah, why didn't we do this stuff earlier? Like in hindsight, it's like, yeah, why did we do this stuff earlier? Right? It just seems like the fact I didn't think we were capable of this, and who knows, maybe we couldn't have done this earlier. I mean, like Luke Fickell wasn't going to make a move last year, and I don't know what other coach would really compare that we could have got to go here. So I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't logistically possible. Few other notes. Luke Fickell today at the press conference had just mentioned that the geographical diversity of the class is a little bit larger than he imagined, and that in the future they're really going to focus on that 350-mile radius. I wonder how much truth there is to that. I mean, I assume they'll try to lock down the border and top players out of Wisconsin, really the Midwest, don't get out. But I've got to think Wisconsin's continue to sort of go to some of those warm weather states that have some talent, serious talent for skill players.
I think we should always lock down Wisconsin, but like him saying his geographical,
350 radius.
Right. I don't think it's a bad thing that it's as wide as it is. Like, yeah, like obviously
right.
Concentrate a lot of our recruiting, particularly in the O-line from Wisconsin
right.
and some of these, where we just pump these huge boys full of corn and shit. But, I mean, we've had success in Hawaii.
Yeah, it is so odd how much success we've had in Hawaii. It seems we're always getting these players from Hawaii, which is
Herbig, Kikahuna now. Like, I mean, these are great players that we're grabbing from there. We're grabbing. We had a guy from Texas. We had a guy from Florida today. I mean, we're all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I don't have a problem with the geographical diversity. I mean, I'm all for. I mean, I think it just says good things about Wisconsin's a brand. This is like a national brand, and I think it's just the brand's just going to get stronger under Fickell.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk a little bit about where Wisconsin sits in how this recruiting class compares to the rest of the Big Ten. So Wisconsin, according to Rivals, our average star rating for the class is 3.21, which is the highest in the Big Ten West and fifth in the Big Ten. So recruiting classes based on average star.
So what's that? Ohio?
Yeah. So Ohio State's number one with a average of 405. So they literally average better than a 4-star, which is obviously incredible. Obviously, we want Wisconsin to get to that point. There's certainly an advantage there, right? You don't the above a 4-star is just so. It's just 405. I mean, I think it's number one in the country, actually. It's just incredible. I mean, I'm hoping that Luke Fickell can take whatever blueprint Ohio State had or Urban had. I don't know wherever Ohio State got this recruiting blueprint. I'm hoping Fickell can replicate this and we can see Wisconsin closer to that 4.0 mark, because, I mean, that's obviously incredible. So that's Ohio State's number one. Penn State's number two at 3.57. But you look at the gap between Ohio State and Penn State, right? We're almost talking half a star just between the first and second in the Big Ten. Then we've got Michigan State at 3.47 and Michigan at 3.43. So Michigan 3.43, Wisconsin at 3.21. Not a huge difference actually between Wisconsin and Michigan, but I don't know. Any thoughts on where Wisconsin stands in the Big Ten? I mean, do you think we're sort of do you think fickle? Do you think we get up to sort of that mid 3 or a higher end 3 or 4.0 rating in the next couple of years?
I don't think there's any reason why we can't be 3 in the Big Ten.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Any reason why we can't look, Ohio State and Michigan, I get it. Right.
Right. Right. But I'm kind of surprised that Michigan's actually that low. I mean, Michigan's 4th in the Big Ten. Michigan's not even. I'm surprised they didn't. And this is, of course, average star rating.
Yeah,
so
I think the way that it naturally will go within the next few years, and maybe this is an average, but I think you're going to see Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin. And then lined up behind them, I think you're going to see Penn State, Michigan State.
And then everyone else. I guess we'll see what Nebraska. I mean, I have no idea what Nebraska is a massive question mark. I have no idea. I mean, part of me thinks just that program cannot succeed, that Nebraska is just doomed forever to losing seasons. But who knows? I mean, Matt Rule could have those guys going. Okay, next on to a topic I know you're excited to talk about. PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck made some comments about Wisconsin negatively recruiting some of the Minnesota players. Luke Fickell was asked about this today at a press conference. Basically said he doesn't take part in any negative recruiting. That we've got plenty of positive to say about Wisconsin. PJ Fleck, of course, says he's got the text messages. So who knows? But I guess, what are your thoughts? Is PJ Fleck just whining? Is he? What are your thoughts on PJ Fleck and your second favorite team, Minnesota?
Yeah, I think PJ Fleck has a real problem.
Has a real problem?
Mm-hmm.
You expand, or just leave it at that?
I mean, I think it's obvious. Like he has total little brother syndrome. He comes from Western Michigan. So I understand that you've got this whole thing where you're like, yeah, I come from a shitty school, so let me move to a slightly less shitty school in Minnesota. And look, conceitedly, we've lost to them, 2 years ago?
Twice, I know, which is, I never thought, I thought about the other day. I thought about it's almost like Michigan, Ohio State, right? Like Ohio State just dominated Michigan for years, and then Michigan gets 2 in a row, and all of a sudden they are on the other side of the rivalry. And I feel the same. I cannot believe we've lost to Minnesota two times.
It's important to be reminded of your own mortality sometimes.
It's true.
Okay. Have we beaten Minnesota like 18 times out of the last 20? Yes. Have they beaten us the last twice? Yes, that's fine. Do I think it's in any way a result of PJ Fleck or his coaching abilities? Absolutely not. You are a Toyota salesman. Right?
I mean, he is a salesman. He's absolutely 100% a salesman. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean,
you are like this row the boat up my ass, bro. Like, dude, you're it's like Toyota like holiday thon bullshit. Like, stop.
Yes,
you're a car salesman. You're nothing more. You're building a mediocre program in a mediocre state, and mediocre people will continue to support you, and that's perfectly fine. There always needs to be a middle class in the world.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I would have to agree with you. I mean, I think thankfully, I think the days of Wisconsin losing to Minnesota are over for quite some time.
PJ Fleck can take his shitty quarter zip that's over like a dress shirt and his row the boat bullshit, and he can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yep. That's
so. The point out, the reason why I'm being belligerent, and listen, I harbor no ill will to Minnesota. I lived there. I went to high school there. I graduated from high school in Stillwater, Minnesota. I at one time considered going to the University of Minnesota, and then I realized I was smarter than that, so I didn't. But for a very brief moment, I did. I'm sorry, but they're bums, like they're losers.
Yeah.
The program is middling. It's experienced relatively little to no success over the historically long tenure, right? I mean, it's
Right.
as old as Wisconsin is, and we have the longest rivalry in sports, but it's not really a rivalry because we just continue to dominate them. And yeah, last couple of
Yeah.
years,
Although I guess we are at 500 with them now, so obviously that needs to change. Yeah, I think
ancient history. I don't count that shit. University of Wisconsin was like busy like inventing stem cell research and stuff
That's
while
true.
they were winning some of those games, but
Yeah,
we've since
that's a good
decided
point.
to be successful on all fronts.
That's a good point. All right, so we've covered the coaching changes. I think we caught up on those. I think we covered all the commits. I don't know. Were there any other as far as like signing day stuff? Was there anything else that I feel like we didn't cover that you wanted to touch on?
No, other than
Okay.
I'm super stoked for I think Fickle's done an amazing job in the limited time he's been here. I'm excited to see how he does over the next couple of months, both in the transfer portal and in just signing high school recruits. And I don't think Wisconsin might ever lose a football game again.
Right. What does that include the bowl game? Because we haven't talked about the bowl game. I don't know if we'll have. So bowl game is in 9 days. We'll see if we have another. May or may not have one more pod before before the bowl,
right?
Oklahoma State. Yep.
What's the bowl game?
The Guaranteed Right Bowl, right? Guaranteed Right Bowl.
So that's the problem that I have with this is I'm usually guaranteed right with like.
I'm sorry, guaranteed rate.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, but yeah, I'm guaranteed right. Usually in terms of like how I approach football and stuff, and I think I'm guaranteed right that Wisconsin's going to beat Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State apparently has a lot of guys that are sitting out for the bowl game. One thing I am
portal, right?
Say that again.
A lot of them entered the portal, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think the one thing I'm most excited about, I mean, generally bowl games that are not a Rose Bowl or an Orange Bowl against Miami, it's tough for me to get excited about. Generally, I should say it's tough for me to get excited about some of these bowls I've never heard of. But I think it'd be cool to see Miles Burkett play. I just want to see. It will be, like I said, I loved Mertz. I know we have different feelings on Mertz, but as much as I love Mertz, I am extremely excited to just see someone else play. Obviously, can't wait to see Nick Evers play, but even watch Miles play. I think we just saw him throw a couple passes this year, but it seems like I don't know. It seems like it could. I don't know. It seems like it's got potential. So we'll see. Although I will know it was interesting. I think in the depth chart that was released, it actually had Chase Wolf or Miles Burkett. So I actually don't know who's starting. I don't know if a starter's officially been named yet.
Wolfpack. Let's go.
Yeah. We'll also see.
We'll give Burkett a chance. It'll be.
Yeah. Unless they split it, if they do one half. I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they split it and they just did. If they gave Chase the first half and Burkett the second half, or vice versa. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes. Or certainly if I have no idea. I have no idea what they're gonna do. It's also interesting because I think Luke Fickell will be on the sideline. From what I understand, he's going to be coaching the game in some capacity, but for the most part, it is going to be the same coaching staff we've had. They said and Ed Luke has been asked about this in press conferences. The program is sort of in a very odd, sort of awkward spot at the moment because you have bowl prep going on with sort of the old staff who won't be here in a month. And then, of course, you've got the new staff who's been out recruiting. So
I don't give a shit about this bowl. I think it's just
right.
an opportunity for Fickle to be introduced to the team prior to spring
Yep.
practices and shit. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's at the very least, I'm excited to see Miles Burkett. Other than that, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it'd be cool to see Braylon could definitely have a monster game. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Braylon have a sort of a breakout, sort of 200-yard game or something like that. All right. Final thoughts. Anything else we didn't get to? Anything else we need to touch on? I know that I really feel like with Wisconsin News, been drinking out of a fire hose the last 3 weeks. I mean, literally since the Bickle news was announced, I just feel like I snorted like a pound of meth or something. Right? It's just been like nonstop news. But did you anything you wanted to touch on?
Keep feeding me that meth, man.
Keep feeding that meth. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I didn't think Wisconsin would be here, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it at that. On Wisconsin.
Bye.